A while back I did a video on a Russian TV USSR built television that I had picked up off of eBay, and I was fairly impressed with the build quality. And I started to do some research and found out that the same factory made an AM portable radio. And actually it's AM and long wave, which is long wave's really not used anymore. And I started to attempt to find one on eBay, and they're pretty tough, and the shipping's pretty high because they come, most of them are overseas. I couldn't find any in the States. So I just got this about a week ago or so and been playing with it, and it actually, the performance is pretty impressive. Right now I'm kind of out in the back country, and I was testing the DX last night, and I'll show that. Let's have a look at the inside. This is KNX at night, and I'm about 300 miles from home. It's a little bit quiet. I think should be louder than that. That's the volume all the way up.
As we hear from CBS reporter Carter Evans, this is not the first time Solo's been in trouble.
Police say Hope Solo appeared intoxicated and upset when they arrived shortly after midnight to what investigators described.
Yeah, it's pretty sensitive. It works pretty good, except that staticky thing. So here's the radio. It's like a typical little 60s or 70s AM transistor radio. And it's pretty much exactly the same as the television. Uses the same kind of components. I guess those are capacitors right there. And got these kind of bizarre packaged transistors and resistors. Some interesting IF cans. Does have a line input there. The speaker is made by the same outfit as the one in the television. Germanium detector down. I'm not sure what these orange things are. I guess they could be a type of disc capacitor. And it's interesting, it looks like they might not have the mica capacitors in the IF cans. I believe those little tubular things there are tubular ceramic capacitors, and it looks like they're using those instead of internal mica wafers, which is a good thing. Now this thing does have some kind of crunchy random static, which could be a transistor. Yes, schematics are available online. Okay, we'll turn it on and see if we can pick anything up. I kind of doubt it out here during the day. But you'll hear the little crunchy static thing. It could be a bad transistor. Also, the volume seems kind of weak, so that could be a bad transistor or a bad capacitor. I think that's the camera. Sure is. Try and face it the other way. Yeah, you're not going to get anything out here during the day. There's no way. Yeah, let's see what I get on my old Zenith here.
He's saying that he has to year, by her standards.
15 years, ESPD has offered a unique alternative to big box banking.
There's the camera again.
The left-hander used to play all the matches again. Hasn't been quite the walk in the park.
Yeah, some of the stations are going to be polarized one way and some of them the other way. But yeah, we're definitely getting more activity on the Zenith than this. I would expect sort of similar performance. The Zenith, I'm sure is going to be superior, but not by that much. I would think this should pull in more stations. So, I say it could be a transistor, or maybe the IF needs to be aligned, or it's got a bad cap in there somewhere. Okay, that's an appropriate song to start our second installment of the USSR made Russian transistor radios. Now in part one, which was several weeks ago on the camera, I had these things out in the mountains of Death Valley. Actually, I had this one right here out. And I'm not going to call it reduced sensitivity because I'm not sure that's what it is, but definitely low volume, lack of gain, And that's almost really hard to detect here in the city where the signals are all super strong. So for me to really test an AM radio's performance, I have to get it out of town. Anyway, being pretty fond of the radio and impressed with the way it worked and the quality of it, just like the TV, I was looking on eBay and I found this one for a fairly reasonable price, and with the defect of this being cracked. So I went ahead and picked it up, and it said it worked, which it does, and I wanted to use this one to compare and see if there was any sensitivity difference. Not that this one wouldn't have the same problem as this one, but it's less likely for that to happen. And this one has way more gain. It's going to be real hard to demonstrate this in the camera because the camera has a compressor in it, and once you get up to the threshold, it will just start to taper the mic gain back. So we will let the airplane go by and we'll try and do a little demonstration. So we'll start with this one, which I have them both on the same radio station, and this is the first one that seemed to have reduced sensitivity, and I'm going to turn the volume wide open.
Those men, almost 1/3 of the total, were under 40 years of age, and 3 were in their 20s. The oldest signer was 70-year-old Benjamin Franklin. The purpose of the declaration was to officially separate the 13 colonies from...
Okay, so that's number one. Now this is the second one here. Same thing.
Tragic road without suffering some penalty. And we looked in detail last time together at some of the sufferings that these men went through. True, all of these 56 men fought in defense of their homes, their property, their families, and their future. They coveted all they had worked for throughout their lives. They prized...
Okay, now I just have them both on a null point, no station. And you can hear they're almost identical. So this is going to be real tough not being out in the field, so to speak. Okay, so one of them is newer than the other one. The model 304 is an update, or 403 is an updated. So this one's updated. It's newer. You can see they're basically the same. And I found a website of someone that collects these, and they have all the schematics posted, which is very cool. And one thing I noticed on the schematic was an external antenna jack, and on this one it's right here. You can see the capacitor soldered there, and on this one the capacitor is right there and the terminal is right there. Now, how often do you see a pocket transistor AM radio with an external antenna jack? Very cool. Okay, so another thing to note is these IF transformers have external tubular ceramic capacitors. These are highly stable ceramic capacitors. They generally, I don't believe I've ever seen one go bad. They're these little, well, like this little blue one here. They use them in television tuners. So there are no IF capacitors in the can to worry about like we had and like Japan had. Transistors could be a problem. Capacitors could be a problem. The capacitors are stacked up in these little neat little packages here where there's 3 capacitors standing up. I'm trying to think of how to diagnose this. I say I'm not totally familiar. I mean, schematics are kind of a universal language, but I'm not you know, really too familiar with these parts, and I don't want to modify these if I can help it. The worst thing would be to, yeah, it's a Soviet radio, and you open it up and there's a bunch of, you know, Nichicon capacitors in it. That would just be tacky. So these look to me like oil-filled military electrolytics, but I think what we should do is test them. The good thing is, oh, this one's got 3 over here, and this one's only got 2. Or actually, I should say the one on the bottom here is the extra one. But anyway, yeah, very cool. So again, it could be a transistor with a whisker in it. I don't know if these transistors get whiskers. It could be it could be anything. I guess the first thing to do is kind of just try and ESR the caps out in place and see what I get. Sounds okay. Sounds okay. I'd have to look at the value of that one, but I would say that one's bad. I'd say that one's bad too. Say that one's bad too. Okay, so far the radio that works good has all bad capacitors, and the radio that doesn't work so hot has good capacitors. Okay, this one here sounds like it's very reduced ESR. Of course, again, I don't know the value, but regardless, it sounds like it's... we'll try it on this one over here. Hello? Anybody home? Yeah, listen to that one. Hear how you have nice crisp highs on that one? And then this one over here. Hear how quiet and muffled that is? And I bet you that's the capacitor that is in the audio circuit between the collector and the base. Now there's one more down at the bottom there. Let me try and get to that. Now that one sounds pretty robust. The one down at the bottom there. This one's rocking pretty good. See what it sounds like on this one. Notice how much more high end there is. Let me go back. Notice how you don't have the high end? So this one looks bad. That one right there looks bad. Let me try this one down here. Now that one seems okay. Hear the high end? Okay. Let's try this one down here. Ah, much better. So we definitely have some high ESR caps in both of these, and I believe these are the the power supply filters, the front end. You know, I could show you on the schematic, and I believe these are, because this is the audio amp right here. This is the, I would imagine that's the input transformer, the driver, the input transformer. These are your two outputs, and that's your speaker coupling. Again, it's all a guessing game. I have no clue. But what we could do, this is the one, I could just get some capacitors and start clipping them across and see if I hear a difference. Could try that. Okay, here's a 6.8 microfarad at 250 volt film power supply capacitor. So I'm going to bridge it across a couple of these. It's non-polarized, and you can hear what it sounds like. It's non-polarized, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, volume's all the way up on a weak station. It's making no difference. If anything, it makes it quieter. Okay, let's try this one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. Let's try this one down here. No difference. So this one right here, this is the
I mean, even myself, I'm 44 years old and I can't watch a show live anymore unless I'm watching two of them because I can't stand commercials and anything else. You can't lower the mound, you can't juice the baseball because that's going to lead to more runs and that's going to lead to longer games. I mean, the quickest games that we have now are when you get two stud pitchers out there that dominate.
So the radio is picking up the Herb Alpert from the amp with nothing connected to it. So that right there is our source of weak audio gain. Very good. Now what I would like to do is pull this apart and very carefully put a surface mount tantalum across the bottom of this if it's possible. I want to keep the original look. I don't want it a bunch of junk capacitors in here. Not that it really matters, but it's just something that I want to do. Again, just listen to the hi-hat. Non-existent. Now this thing says 1 MK. I wonder if that's 1 microfarad. Huh. Okay, so here's our schematic. And I love the way that the Soviets showed the transistors here. This is so cool. Of course, the arrow is the emitter, and then this is the base, and this is the collector. And it's displayed a lot like a tube, where this would be the cathode, and this would be the grid, and then this would be the plate. So this would be our converter stage. And then over here we have IF1 and IF2, and you'll notice that the shield around they're not even IF transformers, they're more just like tanks. Well, this one's a transformer, but you see that the capacitors here, 510, 510, 5 point whatever, these are outside the dotted line. So, and the reason why I mention that is because a lot of the problems we're seeing now are these mica IF capacitors inside these that are built inside these things are developing silver disease and all these other problems, and they're a big pain in the ass. And the Soviets didn't go that route. They used tubular ceramic capacitors. So anyway, this would be our audio stage here. So here they show a 3UF and a 3UF or 5UF, and I'm not seeing that on there. Here's a 10, and then here is our a metric speaker, 10 ohms. Here is our audio output stage, and of course that right there would be our bias correcting thermistor. That's kind of a cool symbol for that. So anyway, detector diode. This is, I believe, a 465 kilohertz. Oh, here's the antenna connector right here. Of course, here's a ferrite rod antenna, and then this is the antenna connector right there. That's very cool. So I think we're looking at one of these. Either this one is the one that's open, or this one. But this is 3UF. Let me take a magnifying glass and have a look. Okay, I kind of rotated it over, and here, I don't know if the camera will show this, it says B3P and then plus, which that's the crimped side. So I'm going to assume that B3P is 3 microfarads. You know, if I find a 3 or a 5 or a 1 or something on it, it's good enough for me, right? Some of you might find this interesting. This is what they're using for their IF. And these are, of course, American ones that I just happen to have around here. And 0 temperature coefficient. And this was folded up, packed in the little box. Look at that, $1. 1946. Can you imagine what $1 was worth in 1946 and having a capacitor that costs $1? Look at that. Half a picofarad tolerance. Alright, well now we know exactly which capacitor is. Of course, this is the volume control. And this is the center of the volume control, and it's going straight to that capacitor. You can see it right there. And then it's coming across over to here, and unfortunately we got this line here, this trace on the circuit board running through it. So how much room do I have under here? I guess I have this much room. Cute little speaker. It sounds really good. What I'm wondering if I should do is cut the trace to get this capacitor out of circuit. Well, this has a bit of cigarette odor to it, but that's cool. Okay, here's what I ended up with. A very carefully placed 3.3 microfarad tantalum teardrop capacitor. There's a whole conversation online about that symbol right there being the symbol of superior quality, whatever that means.
Bradbury runs the place. So what we're doing is we're just opening up the market for patients within our area.
Okay, after I changed that one on the bot that put that teardrop in, I noticed, then I had more volume. Then I noticed a lot of distortion, and I started bridging them again, and I found that the 10 microfarad, which is a bypass from the speaker back to the emitter of one of the audio amps, which is like a limiter, was pretty much open and made a big difference. So I ended up doing a tantalum surface mount on the bottom.
There's some drivers here with overtime. They're going to make 75 to 100 grand a year.
Absolutely, I've heard it.
And you're talking to these guys you're working with now, right? They're telling you that?
Yes, sir.
So conceivably, a year from now, you're going to be making between 75 and 100.
I sure do hope so.
And with your wife's income, that's $140,000.
Towards Camarillo, and it's solidly out towards Camarillo. That is nothing but bumpers, and that is just a lot of volume, a lot of folks heading out towards Ventura County for the holiday, and then an earlier crash on the 101 northbound at Harbor Boulevard out in Ventura County. That's been cleared, but the delays still lingering from back at about Vineyard Avenue. Let's check out with Desmond Shaw, who has taken a look at those earlier problems on the 5.
Hey, we can clear some more problems for you here. This one was pretty bad southbound 5.
Valió.
So cancer.
Celebrating America.
America, love it or leave it.
Happy 4th of July from your friends at Yahoo Sports Radio. Kicking off a Mental Bright Firecracker 4th of July weekend.
Go to Mental Bright. Who are
star names, namely coming into this one, Neymar and James Rodriguez. But really the problem facing Jose Beckerman for Colombia is how is...
Salads. California avocados are guaranteed to add fireworks to any recipe. So next time you're at your local retailer, be sure to look for California on the label. Available now at Vallarta supermarkets.
Hey, Ken Shampoo.
Do want to
desperate and they don't want to have responsibility and they don't want to do anything but drink. There is also
9848. That's 800.
Okay, seems good and sensitive, or loud, I should say. And we kept all the original appeal, if you want to call it that. I guess I could align it.
This hour of AM 760 is presented by News 8.
CBS News Update, I'm Pam Coulter, celebrating the red, white, and blue. Everyone loves a parade today, especially a 4th of July parade in Philadelphia, where the Declaration of Independence was signed. Reporter
Well, now the one that started off working better is been beat out by the one I replaced or bridged the 2 capacitors in. So yeah, they both need excellent radios, by the way, excellent sound quality. A major thumbs up on these USSR built radios. If they were both recapped and both aligned, I think they would both perform excellent. Of course, the next test would be to take these radios out into the backwoods and see how they perform. But I think I'm going to wrap it right here. I think they're both going to work pretty well. That one capacitor on this one really woke it up, really gave it a lot more audio gain.